Hello, I'm Mark Tucker.
And I'm Alan Furstenberg. Welcome to Two Voice Devs.
Two Voice Devs. Hey, welcome back, Alan. It's good to see you.
Always good to see you, Mark, as well. How are you doing?
I'm generally doing okay. It's been one of those extra challenging weeks, professionally and personally. So it's the end of a week and looking forward to the weekend.
Definitely agree with you there. In fact, this is going to be airing right before the long Labor Day weekend. So that's going to be, hopefully we'll get a bit of a break. I hope everyone else is getting a bit of a break as well.
Yeah, sounds good. So what's been going on there lately?
Just, a bunch of projects. Just completed a competition with Dialogflow CX. So we'll probably be talking about some interesting bits about Dialogflow CX in the relatively near future, I think.
Okay.
So that might be interesting, but not tonight, I don't think.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been doing some stuff with a project and some additional APL screens and kind of figuring out what's similar and what is different in a multimodal, if it's a screen device versus a smart speaker. So that's been fun.
Always fun and challenging.
Yeah. Lots of things to learn, and you with APL sometimes you find edge cases and you're like, oh, that's not quite implemented the way that I thought it was, or so. But it's always fun to learn more and kind of figure out where things are.
So I know when you and I were discussing what we wanted to talk about this evening, one of the things that came up was talking about routines. And it's kind of funny because the news has just been breaking just before we recorded this, that Google is now introducing a change to routines that let you start things in a delayed fashion. So you can trigger a routine, but parts of that routine can happen later.
Interesting.
And I don't know too much more about it. It's just literally breaking news as we're coming into this.
So no indication if it's just delaying the start of a routine or like delaying different steps in a multi-step routine.
It's delaying different steps in a multi-step routine. So you'll be able to trigger the routine. So for example, when you wake up, you'd be able to say, hey, gee, I'm getting out of bed. And it will do things like, start music playing immediately in the bathroom. So you've got music playing while you shower, but waiting 10 minutes before it starts making the coffee. So the coffee itself is nice and hot when you're ready for it.
Interesting. Okay.
So
that's good.
At least in theory, it could do something like that. Again, I haven't looked into it. It's not really a programming thing. So there wasn't much to it, but it was interesting news that came up just as you and I were discussing, talking about routines.
Yeah. So have you used routines or implemented routines for any of the things that you've been working on?
I use routines extensively because on the Google side of the world, routines are very useful for aliases. So for example, I have a routine set up that when I say, hey, G, record my weight, that translates into, hey, G, ask Voodoo Drive to add a row to the spreadsheet named weight. So that's a mouthful. But if I just say, record my weight, that's fast and easy. And it launches into the action at the point that I want it to launch into.
And then it prompts you for like, what's your weight or...
Right.
Or what value, and then
then it goes through a bunch of prompts. Okay. And I've got a number of routines set up that way so that they're more like aliases, but they're very simple aliases.
Yeah.
How do you use routines?
So in similar, I think the two big ways that I use routines are either with aliasing, so that you can shorten, sometimes for me, sometimes for a family member, just so that there's less to have to remember. You can get it down to 2 or 3 words as opposed to a big long sentence. So aliasing it, that is, I think, a good use case. The other one is like something on a schedule, like sunrise, sunset, or like 8 a.m. A specific time, or time relative to sunrise, sunset. So that's kind of how I use it. And a lot of the features that I do are 1P features that I include. It could be like talking about the weather or other things that are built in, but there are some things that you can do with third-party skills and actions as part of routines as well, right?
Yep. I also forgot to mention the other big thing I use it for as part of aliasing is that sometimes Google just doesn't understand me. So when I say, hey, G, talk to two voice devs, it doesn't understand it, which is frustrating. So I have an alias set up, so I can say, hey, G, play my podcast so that I can listen to us on, using the tool that we have.
Yeah, no, that is a good use case.
But you said, that there were things that we could do with third-party skills and actions that kind of were tailored towards routines. What sorts of things did you have in mind?
Well, one case that I've got is in Snatchword, wanting to be able to surface some information so that people can include in their daily routines, whether it be in the morning maybe, or in the evening, you can just do a quick report. So you're like, you've got 10 refillable actions and your score is such and such. So it kind of allows you to add that as kind of as part of your news feed of things that are happening. And it's a way of drawing attention to where you're at in the game, and hopefully remind or encourage you to take some time out of the day to play some more Snatchword.
Yeah. Now, was there anything that you needed to do as part of the development to make it work with the routine?
Generally, you don't necessarily have to. A lot of times when they start the game, usually when I start a game, then it goes right into the front door. And it's like, hey, welcome to the game. And it gives you a little bit of intro and, maybe some messages. And so I wanted that to be streamlined. So I actually created a different intent that when it's called, then it just gives a and so I added an intent. So like when you're in the game, you can say, hey, give me a report. And so then I surfaced that same one, and I could tell if it's being called as the first intent directly in the session. So it's a new session. So I know in essence that it's a deep link into it as opposed to going through the launch front door route. And so what I do in that case is I just give the information and then I end the session. I don't ask a follow-on question and try to engage them in a conversation. I just give them the report and then get out.
And that's actually important because I know on the Google side, at least, some of the routines, not all of them, but some of the routines require it to be a one-shot response. So it needs to be, you need to give a reply back and then end the conversation, because otherwise it's going to end it for you. Now, that's not true in every routine, but I know there are some routines that expect it to be just a one-shot response.
No, and Google routines, can you call more than one Google action and as one shots? And can that be anywhere in the list of steps for a given routine? I know with Amazon that you can only add one skill invocation, and it has to be the last step in the routine.
I feel like that is also the case on the Google side, although the more I think about it, the more I wonder.
Okay.
Because I thought I had seen that had been changed. It still might be the last thing in every case, but I think you can give it a list of several invocation phrases. And again, similar on the Alexa side, these can be deep link invocations.
Yeah.
And that's crucial. I mean, that's the sort of thing that I do with my shortcuts into Voodoo Drive. That's a really long invocation phrase, and I'm not really expecting anyone to say it. It's meant to be set up as an alias. One of the interesting things that I find lacking in routines, and it's kind of frustrating in a lot of ways, is that you can't make a routine that takes a parameter. So for example, at least I don't think you can on either platform, but I know you can't on the Google side. So I can't set up a routine, that says if I say record my weight as whatever, that it then, uses the whatever part as a parameter into that huge intent. And that's, in some ways I understand why. That's a complicated feature to add.
Right.
But in some ways it's really frustrating because I want to be able to set up shortcuts that take parameters. I can do it elsewhere,
So that's interesting because there's currently two different ways, and then we'll talk about a third way. So currently you can say, I want to go ahead and create a routine and add an action as one of the steps in that routine and say, I want it to be a skill. And then you specify which skill. And that definitely does the launch into the front door. It just invokes it. The other one is that you can say, this is the sentence as if I were saying it to the device, replay that. And so then you can say, open snatch word and report or something like that.
You see, at the Google, and on the Google side, it only has the enter the phrase that you want to invoke things.
And then there was, I have to go back and look at my notes from the Alexa Live, but there was some talk about routines and parameterization. I'm wondering if that's more towards what your use case was, is that you want it to be, you want to have an alias, you want to use a routine as an alias, but then you also want to be able to, in essence, have a slot as part of that alias that then gets filled and just automatically passes it on to the skill in this case. So I'll have to check notes and see on that and see what's different, or if that's solving that same scenario that you just described.
That would be very interesting if so, I think. Because again, the deep linking that we're building, that can take parameters. It has parameters that passed into the skill or action. We just need some way from the next step out to be able to set those as well. And again, I understand why that's not there right now. It's complicated, but I think it's, I think there will be people that can, as more and more people are using routines, I think we'll see more and more people wanting that sort of thing. And we do see more people using routines, in the recent voice talks. One of the presenters said that one of the trends is that people are using routines more and more. And I found that interesting because that was one of the things that the designers up front were saying, we think this is going to be a great feature. And lots of people said, I don't get it.
Yeah.
What do I want this for?
Yeah. Now, interestingly, so I guess maybe just to put an exclamation point on, if you're a developer creating skills and actions and you want to do something special to make it fit routines better, then you probably want to focus on having one or more intents that surface information that you think people would want to know as part of their day.
Yes.
And surface it in such a way that it can be a one-shot intent.
And one of the, I like referring to this kind of as an audio dashboard.
Yeah.
Because that's essentially what some of the routines can turn into, is just ways to quickly give that information at a glance. And if they need more information, they can come back to your skill or action and ask for more information.
Yeah. And so I guess along those lines, it's not the same thing, but it's I think it's trying to solve some of the similar, or at least the similar mindset. Is we talked about from Alexa Live as well, Apl Widgets, where you can have like a little screen real estate as part of on an Echo Show device, something that talks about or shows information about your skill. So it could be like, if it's game, it could be like, what's your score and what's some other stats or something that's important to the game, something that nudges you or makes it easy. In that case, it's a visual way of doing that. But then when you just think about the information that you're displaying there, and that might be some of the information that you might want to surface in an intent that could be used in a routine.
Yep. And I know on app action widgets, they serve the same purpose. And again, it's that nugget of information, but when you select the widget, it can launch you into the one-shot audible presentation of that information.
So you can get, it sounds like you can get multi-use from that same intent. So that's a good way of thinking about it, is that this is going to be another way of getting somebody right into the core of a feature of the game or skill or tool or whatever application, so that you can just use it.
Yep. I think the other related technology in some ways to this are quick links and assistant links. Again, it's that shortcut directly into some relevant spot that you want to get there and execute it quickly. And I think both of us have expressed confusion that this technology never took off more.
Yeah. Well, in some ways, it's really easy to make a quick link for an Alexa skill that walks you right into the front door. You don't have to do any changes. There's no coding that has to be involved. You just have to take the skill ID and what country the skill store is that's hosting that, and then you can build your own URL and put it on social media, on your website, pass it around, text, email, marketing, any of the things that you want to do, you can do that, and that will take somebody, get them in there quickly. But if you want to be able to pass parameters and go into a deep link, then there is coding and stuff, and that I haven't circled back around to see if there's been any changes. I haven't seen any like news flashes or anything that talks about what would be custom task quick links, to see if there's been better tooling put around those. But it was challenging and extra work. Not that it's not useful, but it was just extra.
And on the Google side, it's just a deep link intent. It even with the parameters, it's just you need to specify what we refer to on Action Builder as a global intent. And that's the same global intent that you need to have for a routine.
Okay.
So these are all, a global intent is basically an intent that, aside from inside your action, can be invoked at any point. It also means that it can be invoked right at the start. So when you're building these intents that you're able to invoke in a routine, you need to build a global intent. And those are the same intents that need to be available for an assistant link. So they all essentially become the same thing, just different ways of invoking it, which is nice.
Yeah. So I have a question on the Google Actions side of things with routines. Is there any type of tooling or an ability to share your routine with somebody else?
No, there is not. So, and I know there is on the Alexa side, but I've never really understood it. Can you kind of walk through what that means?
Yeah, so it's not even really something that's necessarily geared towards developers. It can definitely be used by developers or marketers or anything at a company to help get those routines out, or try to help people see how you can use the skill in their daily routine. And so you create a routine, but really all it is that anybody can do it. You go in and you create a routine that does something. Let's say that I've got an alias that I say, Alexa snatch word report, and that turns around and calls the bigger, Alexa open snatch word and give report or whatever. What you do after you've created that routine, you go to a menu option and it says share routine. And then what that does is it takes you to a screen just like your typical, like I'm on my Android phone, for example, and I can say, oh, I want to share this via email, or I want to share this via text message or on Slack. And what it creates is a URL. So it creates an Amazon URL that has like routines, share, and then some unique ID. So you pass that off to somebody else, and they on their phone click that link, and their Alexa app opens up to the screen where you create routines, and it pre-fills all the things for that routine with the things that was copied from this other routine.
Very nice.
And then what you can do is you can give it whatever name you want. You can change it. Maybe you don't want to say snatch word report. You want to say, snatch word
extended report.
Extended, yeah, I don't know. Or you say, well, I don't want to use it as an alias. I want to go ahead and schedule that as part of my morning routine. So when I say, Alexa, good morning, then it adds that as something that gets included. And so then you save the routine, and now the routine is yours. And it's independent. There's not like some link where if I change the routine,
right,
then everybody else's routines change.
It's a copy. It's not
a copy. Yeah. It's not.
And that has ups and downs.
link.
I mean, that means, if I've now made my skill better and I have an improved routine to it, well, everyone still has the old routine.
Yeah.
So that's a downside, but it's better than me making a change and breaking a billion other, 1,000 people who have depended on it.
Yeah, exactly. And so, with that link, what ends up happening really, like if I were to say I'm the recipient of an email that has a link in there for a routine, I click on the link, it brings up a QR code, and then I can scan the QR code, and then it opens up the Alexa app to that spot.
Yep, very nice.
Yeah. So that's interesting, and that's something that developers and marketers can do.
It's certainly one of the tools that make things a little easier. So this sounds pretty cool, Mark. Is there like a directory or anything of shared routines?
Well, not really a directory per se, and it's not like if you go to the normal skill store, there's nothing that shows that a skill has routines
that's a bummer.
that can be
cool.
shared. Yeah. I did find a link though when looking for things about sharing routines, and there's actually a page. Too bad Amazon's got funky links for most of the things. There's not like a short link.
We'll set up a short link and include it in the show notes.
Yeah, that sounds good. But I'm going to go ahead and read some third-party skills that do share routines. And I'm just going to read the description of some of them so you kind of understand, this is the skill that has a routine, and maybe like, is it part of a morning routine? Is it something that's like an alias that you can start off any point? So I'm just going to read some of these descriptions, and that hopefully will give you some ideas about maybe ways that the skills and actions that you create can surface routines. So like the first one is from NPR radio, and it says, get everything you need to know with the NPR morning routine, including the weather and your local live NPR station. So this sounds like when you do your good morning routine, then it's going to go ahead and kick off the NPR skill and give you local pertinent information that you care about to start your day. The next one is Headspace. Set your device to the do not disturb and dim the lights to take some time for your mind with the Headspace meditation routine.
So these make sense in that in both cases, they are, they're not just invoking a skill. In the Headspace case, for example, it's not just invoking the Headspace skill, but it's also doing some smart home controls and some other things. So
yep. Setting to do not disturb, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Iheart Radio, start your morning smart with the Iheart Radio routine. When your alarm goes off, Alexa will turn on the lights, get things brewing, and feed your mind with the latest episode of the Josh and Chuck Stuff You Should Know podcast.
So again, it's invoking multiple things at the same time. So,
yeah, which is one of the strengths of a routine. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That makes a lot of sense.
Next one is This Day in History. Hear the news and learn about the events that happened on this day with the History This Day in History routine.
Okay, so that's a straightforward invoking a routine.
Yeah, but so that's probably an alias. Yeah,
right. It's an alias, but one of the things that it does by launching it this way is it doesn't just say, go ahead and say blah, 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 blah. It says, click here and you'll get the information that you need. Yeah. So I think that's a bonus. So interesting stuff. I got to say, I'm curious to know how our listeners and viewers use routines. Are there routines that they love, that they use all the time? Or are there routines that they've set up to get some of their daily tasks going? So, if you've got routines that you frequently use, we'd love to hear more about them.
Yeah, and if you've got questions or want to bounce ideas off on, well, this is the skill that I've got. What would be some of the intents that might make sense to surface as routine? That would be a great Twitter conversation we'd love to
Yeah.
have with you.
You know, what does an audio dashboard for my skill or action sound like? You know, what are the sorts of things that people will want to wake up to and hear? So I agree. Great conversations. You can find us on Twitter, comment below, or you can catch us at voice lunches.
Yeah, and at the next episode of Two Voice Devs.
Two Voice Devs. Have a good week, Mark.
Yep, you too. Take care, and take care, everybody.